It seems that gas ballooning has been a part of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta almost from the beginning. With anywhere from 1 to a dozen balloons inflating, many times overnight, to lift off unseen by most of the tens of thousands of visitors that enjoy the hot air events, the Balloon Fiesta hosted the annual Fiesta gas competitions from 1981 through 1988. As Balloon Fiesta gained popularity and credibility on the international stage, it was inevitable that the world gas ballooning community would come to Albuquerque as well. And come it did. In 1992, David Levin won the Gordon Bennett event in Germany, bringing the world's most prestigious 1993 event to the United States and Albuquerque. In 1994, Fiesta played host to the 8th World Gas Balloon Championship. Albuquerque was hooked.
I think America's Challenge came about because of the opportunity to fly long distance racing without a lot of problems with air traffic control issues or, boundaries in countries or political problems. Here you could fly huge flights in relatively, easy airspace. So, I knew it would work, and the pilots have made the event successful over the years.
That first year drew 12 teams of competitors, and while it was called America's Challenge, pilots from 5 countries participated. The winners were Richard Abruzzo and David Melton, after a penalty for dropping an oxygen tank at takeoff was assessed on the team of Leslie Davies and Carol Reimer Davis. That reduced their actual distance of nearly 1,450 miles to 1,219 and 4th place. Abruzzo and Melton flew for 60.2 hours, covering 1,393 miles and landing in West Virginia. 1996 was definitely a shorter race. Brothers David and Alan Levin flew to victory flying 439 miles to Putnam, Oklahoma. It was also a family affair that year. In addition to the Levin brothers, 2 husband and wife teams, Leslie and Tom Davies and Troy and Tammy Bradley, finished 3rd and 4th respectively. By the way, the 1995 champions ended up in last place, and race founder Mark Sullivan took along New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson as his co-pilot. Mark and the governor teamed up again in 1997, and while not participating in the competition, flew the 8th best distance in the race. Richard Abruzzo returned to the top of the list with Jacob Traub, flying 910 miles and landing in a tree on a golf course in Mankato, Minnesota. They were headed into severe weather, and somehow the pair left the basket, sending the now unmanned balloon back into the air. It eventually returned to Earth some 300 miles downrange. It was a 3-day retrieval. The number of participants in America's Challenge continued to grow, with 19 teams registered for the 1998 event. The husband and wife team of Troy and Tammy Bradley flew nearly 1,400 miles to land in the wilderness of Canada. The closest town was Cat Lake, but it took a helicopter to retrieve the pilots and fly them the 75 miles to Pickle Lake. It was another couple of weeks before the balloon system could be recovered by helicopter. In 1999, America's Challenge was put on hold as Albuquerque won a bid to host the Gordon Bennett event. It was the second time Albuquerque would play host to this granddaddy balloon competition. 20 teams participated, making it the largest field to ever fly in North America and the most entered in the Gordon Bennett race since it started in 1906. The Belgium team won the event. 2000 proved to be an interesting year for the 5th America's Challenge. First, the weather. Heavy and consistent rain caused a 3-day delay of the launch. And even then, the storms were not out of the area when inflations began. With 25 teams registered and thunderstorms still in the area, only 9 teams decided to take flight. Brothers David and Alan Levin found themselves repeating as champions, flying nearly 2,000 miles, landing near Portland, Maine. David would later describe the flight as hellish start to heavenly finish. It was also the first year hydrogen was used by some balloonists. 2000 also saw the addition of real-time tracking via the Balloon Fiesta website. This technology provided, and continues to provide, a whole new dimension to the spectator side of the race, as anyone, anywhere in the world can follow the progress of the competitors. 2001 brought another set of challenges. With the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center happening just 4 weeks before Balloon Fiesta was scheduled to start, the entire event was in danger of being canceled due to the no-fly restrictions in place. But officials at all levels worked with the FAA to get the ban lifted, allowing not only Balloon Fiesta to take to the sky, but also clearing the way for America's Challenge participants to fly across the country as well. For the 6th America's Challenge balloon race, it was Peter Cuneo and Barbara Fricke that went the distance, flying more than 1,300 miles, landing near East Liberty, Ohio. In 2002, it was Richard Abruzzo returning to the top of the podium with his 3rd win. His co-pilot this time around, New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson. The pair fly right towards the restricted airspace over Washington, D.C., and then managed to circumnavigate around the restrictions, landing in Georgetown, Delaware, after more than 43 hours of flight. Richard Abruzzo made it 3 in a row, also winning in 2003 and 2004. In 2003, with co-pilot Carol Reimer Davis, the flying time, 63 hours, more than 1,100 miles, landing near Iron River, Wisconsin. In 2004, his co-pilot was once again Gary Johnson. The relatively short 36-hour flight landed near Omulgee, Oklahoma. It was a good year for Richard and Carol, as they also won the Gordon Bennett race in 2004, bringing the event to Albuquerque for the 3rd time. 2005 marked the first time a non-USA-led team won the America's Challenge. Janet Folks from the United Kingdom, along with USA co-pilot Bill Aris, flew nearly 1,500 miles in 46 hours, landing north of the Great Lakes near Espanola-Massey, Ontario, Canada. In second place that year, Barbara Fricke and Peter Cuneo, landing near Ranger Lake, Ontario, Canada, a mere 59 miles short of the winning distance. In addition to the 12 balloons participating in America's Challenge, another 14 balloons participated in the Gordon Bennett run at the same time. And the race was not without mishap. Richard Abruzzo and Carol Reimer Davis hit a severe downdraft over Kansas and were pushed into non-energized power lines. In trying to get free of the lines, Richard was ejected from the gondola, leaving Carol to land the now light balloon in high winds. The basket overturned, and she was also ejected and dragged by the balloon. Richard spent 12 days in hospitals recovering from his injuries. Richard and Carol were back together in the basket for the 2006 edition of America's Challenge and managed to finish 3rd. But it was Andy Caton and Kevin Knapp who took a southern route, besting the 13 teams, landing near Citra, Florida, a distance of 1,479 miles in about 60 hours. Andy made it 2 in a row, winning the 2007 event, flying north this year, landing near Kipling, Saskatchewan, Canada. With co-pilot Stuart Enlow, the winning distance was 1,055 miles, 400 less than the previous year, but 90 minutes longer. 2008 found another double event year, with the Gordon Bennett again hosted in Albuquerque. Mark Sullivan, who brought the idea of America's Challenge to life, finally won the event in 2008. Sullivan and Sherry White traveled 882 miles in 68 hours to land near Iowa Falls, Iowa, and capture the Blue Trophy. It was the 14th America's Challenge, not the 13th, that proved unlucky, as 2009 was the only year the America's Challenge event was canceled due to weather. Unfortunately, the 9 balloons had inflated and battled the wind and gusts before organizers decided conditions were not conducive for a safe launch. The launch was canceled, and shortly thereafter, officials announced it would not be rescheduled. The 15th America's Challenge in 2010 was a difficult year. Just 1 week before the event, while participating in the Gordon Bennett, Richard Abruzzo and Carol Reimer Davis went missing while over the Adriatic Sea. Weather is believed to have been the problem for Richard and Carol, and weather played havoc with the America's Challenge event as well. Because of the scheduling of the Gordon Bennett so close to the start of Fiesta, Saturday's launch window was shifted by 3 days until Tuesday. Then weather delays hit, causing the launch to be delayed to Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday, and finally, on Friday evening, actually early Saturday morning, the 6 teams took off from Balloon Fiesta Park. The launch was preceded by a ceremony in honor of the two missing balloonists. A launch of small white helium balloons, accompanied by two spaces of color, Richard's hot air balloon, Peak Express, and Carol's hot air balloon, Raggedy Ann. Results from this tough year resulted in a pink podium. Barbara Fricke becomes the second woman to win as primary pilot, landing on the dock on the Canadian side of the Detroit River. Danielle Francoeur and Sherry White finished second and third. Co-pilots were Peter Cuneo, Linda Ellis, and Mark Sullivan. With the last balloon landing on the Monday after Fiesta, there was no awards banquet in 2010. The winners were recognized at the 2011 ceremony. After a number of years with less than ideal weather for launch, 2011 took to the sky amid a hot air balloon glow and fireworks. 8 teams representing 6 nations participated, and with such an international cast, it was no wonder that the British-Australian team of David Hempelman-Adams and Jonathan Mason flew the furthest, landing near the Canadian border northwest of Minot, North Dakota. Jonathan Mason returned in 2012 as primary pilot to defend his title. Along with co-pilot Clive Bailey, the UK team could only manage 4th in the field of 5. The small number of competitors was blamed on helium not being available for flight due to the high cost and shortage of the gas and hydrogen-certified envelopes. The winners, flying more than 1,600 miles, landing near Beulahville, North Carolina, were Sherry White and Mark Sullivan. It is a repeat win for them after winning in 2008. In second place, the first Russian pilot to compete in America's Challenge, Leonid Tukatayev was joined by Willie Eimers as a last-minute co-pilot replacement. They landed near Elton, Virginia. Experience was the word for 2013 when describing the competitors. The 10 members of the 5 teams have a combined 110 years of experience flying in the America's Challenge, along with dozens of competitive years in the Gordon Bennett. 3 of the 5 teams include former America's Challenge winners. In the end, it was the team of Peter Cuneo and Barbara Fricke who flew the length of Lake Superior overnight to land near White River, Ontario, Canada, to win the All-USA competition. This was the pair's 3rd win, bested only by Richard Abruzzo's 5 wins. The international flavor of America's Challenge returned in 2014, with only 4 of the 7 teams from the United States. The other countries did well, taking 3 of the top 4 slots. Landing near Campbellsville, Kentucky, a distance of nearly 1,200 miles, was the Spanish team of Onufel Gonzalez and Angel Aguirre. It was the Polish team of Krzysztof Zapart and Mateusz Rikas in second, and the German team of Dr. Heinz Otto Lausch and Dr. Marian Lausch finishing in 4th. The top U.S. team was the formidable duo of Peter Cuneo and Barbara Fricke in 3rd place. 2015 was the 20th year of America's Challenge, and unfortunately, Mother Nature was not in a celebratory mood. Weather remained in a constant state of change throughout the launch window. Finally, as the window came to a close, officials were forced to announce there would be no inflation and no flight of America's Challenge in 2015. 2016 brought one of the more interesting competitions. First, the window, which normally opens on the first Saturday of Balloon Fiesta, didn't open until Wednesday. The delay was to allow 4 teams that competed in the Gordon Bennett the previous month enough time to ship their equipment to Albuquerque. Then thunderstorms in the Midwest caused a 24-hour delay in the actual launch. Crews set up their aircraft during the Special Shapes Glodio and Afterglow fireworks display. Then just before midnight, the teams began to launch. Almost immediately, 2 different strategies emerged. One, go high and go fast. The other, stay low and go slow. When it was all said and done, Peter Cuneo and Barbara Fricke went the distance, one of the shorter winning distances in America's Challenge races. The Polish team finished second, while Bert Padelt and Noah Forden of the U.S. finished third. Of note, the French team that had announced they wanted to see the Grand Canyon while in the U.S. actually managed to fly to the west, making it to the Painted Desert. Flying west is not common, as the prevailing winds are west to east. The 22nd event saw a return of the distances America's Challenge is known for. In fact, new distance records were set in 2017, with 7 of the 8 teams exceeding 1,000-mile flights. It was also one of the best-attended launches anyone can remember. That was due in part to a launch that took place just as hot air balloons were inflating for the opening night balloon glow. And with Balloon Fiesta's new live streaming video program, Balloon Fiesta Live, the entire setup and launch sequence was streamed live to tens of thousands of viewers around the world. The winners, Switzerland's Nicolas Teschi and Laurent Chabot, flew 2,281 miles, landing near Labrador City, Newfoundland. That exceeded the previous distance record of just under 2,000 miles. By the way, it's also greater than the longest distance flight in a Gordon Bennett, which also just happened to launch out of Albuquerque back in 2005. Second place went to Poland's Krzysztof Zopart and American co-pilot Andy Caton. The hometown team of Barbara Fricke and Peter Cuneo finished third, just shy of the previous distance record. While America's Challenge is always held during Balloon Fiesta, the Gordon Bennett is always timed to the full moon in September. And in 2018, the two events are so close together on the calendar that the two events overlap. This forced America's Challenge officials to put the U.S. event on hold for 1 year to avoid the date conflict. Plans are for America's Challenge to return in 2019 for the 23rd edition.